Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is daf Tzadik Gimel 93. We are at the Mishnah, second wide line of Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph. We're going to have some Rashi. We'll have, I think, a little Tosfos, but mostly we're going to be talking about workers' rights. That's what we've been talking about, the rights of workers to food and the like. And so let me share my screen and we will get started. So, as we pick up at the top, again, near the top of Tzadik Gimel and Aleph, we're going to begin with the Mishnah, which is where we ended yesterday. And we're going to cite go through in detail the Mishnah that we cited several times yesterday in our effort to show that actually the fact that a worker has the right to eat while he's working, the food that he gets to eat, namely that the produce that he's working on, it's effectively, at least according to this Mishnah, a gift from Hashem. Okay, so let's take a look. So the Mishnah lists situations where a worker would not be allowed to eat. So kotzitz adam al yedei atzmo, a person can limit their own ability and say, listen, why don't you pay me more money and I won't eat anything of yours. That's legal. You can also do that for your adult children. And your adult slaves. You could do it for your wife. They all have intelligence. They all have knowledge and understanding. So, but you can't do it for your minor children. And you can't do it for your minor slaves. And you can't do it for your animal. They don't have knowledge. They don't have understanding. They don't have the ability to say, okay, now I understand that I'm not going to be able to eat. So that's case number one. Case number two, hasocher as a poalim. If you hire workers, lasos beneta revaishalo, to work on their fourth year vineyard fruit. So, and presumably any fourth year fruit, it wouldn't just be neta revai is, of course, when it's a fourth year, that it's a fourth year since planting of the vines, but it also applies to other kinds of trees as well, to other fruit trees as well. And the point is that produce needs to be brought to Yerushalayim. And so as a result, when you hire somebody to work with it, that they don't get to eat it because they can't eat it because they're not in Yerushalayim right now. And if they were to bring it to Yerushalayim, they wouldn't be working. So as a result, they are not going to get to eat it. But if you didn't tell the worker that that's what you hired them for, and they agreed to work for a certain wage and now don't have the ability to eat, that you've gypped them. You've cheated them out of what they're supposed to get. And so as a result, you need to redeem the food and feed them. Nisparsu igulav v'nispatchu chaviosav. Now, when it comes to fig cakes, when they get pressed together, that's when they're complete, and therefore truma is obligated on them. And therefore, once it's complete, if you hire a worker to work with it, he does not get the right to eat from it. And if you now hire somebody to put it back together, if they fell apart, or if a cask opened and you're now going to put the wine in a new cask, hare elu lo yochlu. Again, you can't. The worker doesn't have the right to eat because these are subject to meiser, and you haven't yet taken meiser, so they're not edible yet. Im lo hodian maaser umachilan. But again, if you didn't tell them, then you have to take meiser, and then you have to feed it to them. Mm-hmm. So because again, they got gypped because they thought they were going to be able to eat as part of this job, and now you telling them only after you've hired them that they can't. Shomrei Peros Ochlin Mehilchos Medina Avolo Mina Torah. Now, last piece, which we never covered yesterday, is that those who guard produce get to eat, but not from the Torah. They get to eat Mehilchos Medina. What does Hilchos Medina sort of literally means? From either the law or the custom of the particular state. Rashi tells us, Kvar Nahagu Kain. That became the custom. That's exactly what the custom was. And so as a result, that's why they're allowed to eat, because effectively it became an assumed part of the transaction. And so they're allowed to eat. So now the Gemara is only going to now analyze the last of the points, because the first 3 points were dealt with in our Gemara yesterday. So we have a machlokas. Shomrei Peiros, when it comes to guarding, Amar Rav, Lo Shanu Ela Shomrei Ganos Ufardisin. That when we're referring to the guards, we're referring to the guards who are guarding things before any picking happens, meaning while it's still in the ground. Aval Shomrei Gitos, Va'aremos Ochlim in Torah. But if they are guarding wine presses or aremos piles, then you are of the produce, well, then they're allowed to eat. Because again, when can you eat? You can eat as you pick, or you can eat as it processes before it's subject to trumas and maasros. So kasavar mishamer kaosem asadami. So it's clear that Rav is saying that guarding constitutes doing work for the produce, because the issue is that why can't they eat in the garden? It's because it's not actually the time to eating. It's before it's ready. And why can you eat when it's in the wine press, etc.? That's because it's the right time. And so as a result, they're allowed to eat according to the Torah in the first case. And our Mishnah refers to, they're allowed to eat according to the Torah in the case of guarding the wine presses and the piles, because that's processed food, or not fully processed food, and that is therefore not subject to trumas and maasros. Whereas when it's in the garden, then they're only allowed to eat because of the custom of the allowance. Okay, but Shmuel Amar Lo Shanu Ela Shomrei Gitos Va'aremos. No, it's the ones who are guarding the wine and presses and piles. They're the ones who are allowed to eat because of custom. Aval Shomrei Ganos Ufardizim Ein Ochlin Lo Min HaTorah V'Lo Min HaHelchos Medina. They can't eat for any reason, because the food isn't ready for them to eat. It's still in the ground. And so they're not allowed to eat, whether from Torah or custom. So, and kasavar mishamer lab kosamaisadami. And Shmuel is clearly holding that guarding is not considered work. So now we're going to have two challenges of Shmuel, and then we're going to support him. So let's take a look. So Masav Rav Acha bar Rav Huna, Rav Acha asks, Hamishamer as hapara mitame begadim. We have a brisa that says that one who guards the para aduma after it's been slaughtered until its ashes are gathered, that person is matame begadim. He becomes tame. This is the famous irony associated with para aduma, the red heifer. When you take the ashes of the red heifer with water and it gets sprinkled on the person goes from becoming tame mace to becoming tahor. And yet all the people who engage in the process, other than the person who himself is tame mace, they all become tame themselves. So the purification process actually impurifies the people who are involved. So again, this person who guards it. Now, now, if you're going to tell me that guarding is not actual work, why should he become tummy at all? So we answer it. Amar Rabba Bar Ula, Gzeira Shema Yaziz Ba'aver. We're worried that if he's the guard, maybe he'll touch something, and as a result of his touching something, he'll become tummy. So in order to avoid any possible concern, we're going to treat him as if he was tummy. But it would only be a rabbinic tumah. Mesi Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana also asks a question. He asks a question from a different brisa. Hamishamer arba v'chamesh makshos. If you're guarding 4 or 5 fields of squashes, harezel lo yimale kireso me'echad mehen. Well, you're guarding, and Rashi clarifies that we're talking about you're guarding it from 4 or 5 different people. You shouldn't all eat you're allowed to eat from them, right? Because we're saying that you're a guard, And so that's where we're going to ask the question. But you're not allowed to, you shouldn't eat from only one of them, because that's unfair, right? If I'm working for 4 or 5 people, I should spread my eating around. So you should eat according to each one, according to their calculation, meaning according to on some proportional basis, whether it's 1/4 or 1/5 because of the number of people, or maybe you do it based on the size. But the bottom line is you shouldn't just eat from one person. If the guarding is not like work, why is he allowed to eat at all? So Amar Rav Shimi bar Ashi ba'akurin shanu. We're not talking about guarding the fields of squash while they're still in the ground. We're talking about the guarding fields of squash after they've been picked. Well, 1 second, akurin, if you're telling me they're uprooted, so the halon nigmara malachton lemaiser, then that has already enough for them to be finished for Meiser. And we know that once you're subject to Meiser, you don't get to eat. So why did this person get to eat? No, shalom nitel pikas shalahem. The flower, the blossom that is attached to them has not been removed. So as a result, we're dealing with that immediately after them being plucked from the ground. And so as a result, because they're still not yet finished, it's not yet subject to Trumas and Maisris, and as a result, that's why the watcher is able to eat. And so as a result, according to Shmuel, this would be a case that he says you can eat, right? He says you can. The guards of gardens and orchards don't eat, but guards of wine presses and piles do get to eat. So he's basically saying this is a case of presses and piles. Okay. So now that we've tried 2 times unsuccessfully to challenge, we now try and support Shmuel. So let's take a look and see how Rav Ashi supports Shmuel. Rav Ashi says, Kavase de Shmuel Mistabra. It makes actually sense to say like Shmuel. De Tanan, Ve'elu Ochlin Min Torah. These are who eat from the Torah. Now, this was the Mishnah that we saw up above on the bottom of Pei Zayin Amud Aleph, that who eats according to the Torah, ha'osa b'mechuber lakarka b'shas gemar malacha ubetalush, that ubetalush, and then it continues. So if you're working with the produce that's attached to the ground at the time of the completion of the work, meaning when the work is being finished with the produce, well, then you're allowed to eat. Or if you're working with detached produce, Miklal deika de loka achil mina Torah ela mihilchas medina. Well, that implies that there are some categories, because we just said that these are the ones who get to eat according to the Torah, that there may be some who eat not according to the Torah. So as a result, that's what our Mishnah now is talking about. And Ema Seifa, what does the end of that Mishnah say? Ve'elu she'einu ochlan, and then there are those who don't get to eat. Now, my ein and Oakland, what did it mean at the end of that Mishnah where it says that you don't get to eat? Because ilema ain't Oakland min a Torah ela mihilchas Medina, if it means that you can't eat from the Torah, but you can eat from the fact that from custom, well then hainu reisha, you haven't really told me anything new. That we already got that out of the first part of the Mishnah. So elav she'ein Oakland lo min a Torah v'lo mihilchas Medina. The point is that there is a category that cannot eat neither from the Torah and not from custom. Umay nihu, what is that category? Osa b'mechuber lakarka b'shasha ein gamar malacha. If you are working with the produce at the time before the produce is finished, while it's still attached to the ground, so then you do not get to eat. The kol shekain shomrei ganas upardisos, and certainly somebody who's guarding such a garden or orchard where the produce is still attached to the ground. So as a result, that's exactly what we're saying. Therefore, this seems to be a support to Shmuel's position. Okay, so that brings us to the next item, and basically, because we mentioned guards, now we're going to talk about the different kinds of watchers that there are. We've been talking during the course of our learning of Bava Metzia together about watchers, but this is sort of the key source for the discussion. So let's take a look. Arba Shomrin Hain. There are 4 kinds of watchers. So who are they? Shomer Chinam, an unpaid watcher. Hashoel, a borrower. Nose Sachar, a paid watcher. Vasocher, and a renter. Shomer Chinam, if you're an unpaid watcher. Nishba ala kol, you have to swear with respect to everything. And Rashi tells us, Nishba al hakol, that it refers to Shomer Chinam Nishba al kol hama'uraos, on any kind of bad thing that happens. Haketubot b'shar shomrim, that are written in connection with all of the other kinds of watchers. L'chiyuv, in those situations, when it comes to the other kinds of watchers, that they would be liable. So in this case, the Shomer Chinam, the unpaid watcher, who nishba shekach also lo, he just swears that that's what happened to him. Upatur, and he is exempt. And we will see in the next parak of Hashoah, where it talks about borrowers, Yalif Lakula Masnisan Mikrai. We'll end up deriving each aspect of this Mishnah from various psukim. Okay. The Nose Sachar Vasoker Nishban al Hashvura, Al Hashavuya, Al Hamesa. Now, one who is a paid watcher or a renter, they swear with with respect to an animal that broke its limb or that was captured by armed armed bandits is what I had meant to say. The alamesa and death by natural causes. Umishalmin as aveda as agneva, and they pay when there's some kind of loss or theft. Meaning, if there's situations where there might be some liability because you should have protected it better, so or should have kept better track of it. So, my Tana Arba Shomrim, who is the Tana of our Mishnah? That's what the Gemara asks, and let's see if we can figure it out. So, Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, Rabbi Meir here. It's actually Rabbi Meir. Now, of course, on some level that makes total sense because Rabbi Meir is often the Tana of an unattributed anonymous Mishnah. So Amar Le Rava the Rav Nachman, but Rava asked Rav Nachman, Mi Ika Delesle Arba Shomrin. What's the whole question here? Are you telling me that there's somebody who disagrees with the concept of Arba Shomrim? Everybody knows that that's the nature of it. I mean, what other category could you even think of? And are you going to eliminate a category? That doesn't make any sense. So Amar Le Haki coming. No, lach. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Mantana Stoker Kanose Sachar Rabbi Meir. Who is it the one that says that a renter is comparable to a paid watcher? That both of them are subject to the same level of liability. And that's who I'm saying it's Rabbi Meir. But 1 second, you want to tell me that's Rabbi Meir? Rabbi Meir we heard the exact opposite from him because the Tanya, we have a brisa that says the following: Socher Ketzim Mishalim. Now, when a renter is liable, how does he pay? Meaning, what's the situation that he's going to have to pay? Rabbi Meir Omer Kishomer Chinam. He pays in a situation where a Shomer Chinam would have to pay. That is a very high standard, meaning he does not pay like a Shomer Sachar. The Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kishomer Sachar. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that he pays like a Shomer Sachar. So Rabbi Meir said the exact opposite. So Rabba Baravua Ibcha Katani. No, you have to know. I said my comment in the name of Rabba Baravua, and Rabba Baravua taught the opposite version of this brisa with the opinions flipped. Well, Ihachi Arba Shloshaninhu. Well, 1 second. Whatever opinion you're going like, why are we saying that there are 4 categories when there are actually 3 laws associated with them? So Amar Rav Nachman, exactly what you might expect. Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Arba Shomrim, the Dinei and Shlosha. There are 4 kinds of watchers, but there are only 3 laws, meaning that that 2 of them have the same kind of law associated with them. Okay, so now we're going to get into some related incidents, and those related incidents are going to result in Abaye challenging Rabba's ruling several times, looks like 5 different times, and then we'll see that actually other people disagree with Rabba, And actually, I believe that the halacha is not like Rabba. So we're going to end on a halachic note. So Raya the Havakarai Chevasa Guda Denahar Papa. There was a shepherd who was watching his animals along the banks of the river of Papa River. So Surig Chada Minayu bin Nafalat Lamaya. One of the animals fell into the water, and of course, wasn't good for the animal. So the owner and the shepherd come before Rabbah, and Rabbah says the shepherd is not liable. Amar my hava because after all, what was he supposed to do as we turn to Tzadik Gimel Amid Aleph? Amid Bet, excuse me. So Han Natar Kidid Nitare Inche. He's guarded the animals as people ordinarily guard animals. So Amrle Abaye asked question number 1 of 5. What one is Elameata al Lumasa beidna de Ile Inche. 1 second, you're going to tell me that everything is based on custom. So if watchers of their own animals tend to come into the city at a particular time of day, so then you're going to say that in fact Hachinami de Putter, if this paid watcher goes into the city, he also would be not liable. I'm really in. Yeah, then you got it right. If that's the custom for a shepherd to do, he's not going to be liable. Gonna porta beidna de ganu inshi. If he takes a nap at the time that people take a nap, Hachinami de Putter, you gonna tell me that he's also not exempt? Yeah, Amrlay in. Yeah, absolutely. So Ace. So now we were going to up the challenges. So Eluhaim Onasin Shishomer Sakar Pater Alayhen. Here's the category for which a paid watcher is not going to be liable. Kagon Betipol Shaba Vitikachem es the Eshanaarim Hiku Lefichar. So this is a verse from Iyov where it says that the Shabians fell, came onto them, the shepherds, and they took the animals, and they smote the shepherds, the lads who were watching them with their sword. Meaning that it has to be forced. It has to be armed bandits. It's not enough for it to just be a theft situation. So Amrlay, Masa. No, Rabbah says that's where the people were the guards. They were town guards. And so as a result, as Rashi says, top line in Rashi, end of the first line in Rashi, B'chazana Masa, Shomrei Ha'ir B'layla. They were night watchers of the entire city. Shekol Samach Inshi Ha'ir Alehem, where everybody is relying on them, Lishmor Gufam, to watch over their bodies, Umamonam, and their possessions. Hanu Vadai Bo Ntirusa Yaserta. And these kind of people, Rabbah agrees, do need to engage in a higher level of watching. Custom is not sufficient in those situations. So Esvei. So all right, you now got that situation. But what about the following brisa? Ad Masai Shomer Chsachar Chayav Lishmor. To what degree is a paid watcher obligated to watch? Ad Kadei Hayisi Bayom Achalani Chorev V'Kerach Balayla. That this is what Yaakov told Lavan, that I was there in the heat of the day and at the frost of night. So Amar Lei Hasam Nami B'Chazani Masa. And Rabbah says again that was where it was a level of watching associated with being a town guard. So Amar Lei Atu Yaakov Avinu Chazan Masahava. He wasn't a town guard. He was just a regular shepherd. No. So to Amar Lei Lavan. No. The point is that he was telling Lavan, Natri Lach Netirusi Yaserta Kechazani Masa. I was watching your flocks better than a regular guy. I was watching them like a town guard, not just a regular paid watcher. So Esvei. So now challenge number 5. Yeah, Mark, they can use your help. Thank you. So Esvei. So now they challenged from the following brisa. Roa Shahaya Roa. If somebody was watching sheep, and he leaves his flock and he goes into the city, uba arividaras, if a wolf or a lion comes and takes the animals, ein omrin ilu hayasham hayamatzel. We don't automatically say that if he was there, that he would have saved the animals. Ella omdinoto. We have to do some kind of assessment. Im yachol lahatzil chayev. If he would have been there and would have been able to save them, then he's liable. V'im lav patur. But if not, then he's exempt. The point being is that these are uncontrollable situations. They are situations outside your control, but we have to evaluate whether you could have done something about it. If you could have done something about it, well, then you're going to be liable for having left them. So, my lav da'al be'idna da'ili inchi. Don't we have to be talking about a situation where you left the animals at a time when people ordinarily leave the animals? Because after all, if they left the animals at a different time, of course you would be liable because you would have been negligent. So Rabbah says no. Lo the alba inna de lo ili inshi. You left the people at a time when the people don't go into the city, and you were negligent, and that's why you're liable. 1 second, that doesn't work. Abaye points back out because ihachi on my putter. Why would you be not liable even if you couldn't have saved the animals? We say that if you begin something in a situation of negligence and the end ends up being unavoidable, you are liable in that situation. Deshama kal ar. So Rabbah answers, you know what? Don't say that in fact he left at the wrong time, or he did leave at the wrong time, but you have to understand why he left. Why did he leave? Deshama kal arye va'al. He heard the lion roar, or presumably the wolves bay. And so as a result, he went into town in order to save himself. Well, ihachi omdinoso. Why do we assess him? My havalela. What is he supposed to do? Again, these are lions and wolves that we're talking about. He should have gotten up, got some other shepherds around, gotten some sticks, and protected the flock. Well, ihachi, my area shomer sachar. Then why do you need to talk about a shomer sachar? Afilu shomer chinam. Even an unpaid watcher is subject to that. Daham marhu da'amr, because it's Rabbah who said shomer chinam shahaya lo lakadim beroim uvemaklos, that even an unpaid watcher who's able to get up and face the challenge should get up with other shepherds and sticks. And here below kidim chayiv, and if you didn't, then you're liable. So why isn't even an unpaid watcher liable? Shomer chinam bechinam. No, the difference is that an unpaid watcher has to try and get other people to help for free, meaning he's not obligated to lay out any money. But a shomer sachar b'sachar. But a paid watcher does need to lay out money. And hire other workers to come and work with him. Well, 1 second, but ad kama, how much do they have to pay? Ad kedei demayan. They have to pay up to the value of the animals. And at the moment, we're assuming that the shepherd doesn't get paid back for that. And so now the Gemara asks, but this is all unavoidable. And you're effectively making him pay to hire other shepherds to come together and protect the sheep. You're effectively making him liable for something that's unavoidable. So dahadar shakil demehen mi balabais. No, yes, you do have to hire them, but the paid watcher can charge the owner of the flock for reimbursement and get fully reimbursed up to the value of the animals that he's watching. Well, Amrle Rav Papa Abaye. What's that? Rav Papa asked Abaye, Ihachi Maya Hani Mina. If I'm watching your animals, Stan, and they're worth $1,000, and I pay Moshe, Ken, and Charlie $333.33 each, and I'll give the extra penny to Ken for the heck of it. And now they come and protect the animals with me. What benefit have you gotten, right? You've effectively paid for your own animals. So nafgamina lekushra dechevasa. No, the point is look at the kushra, the suitability, the kashrus of the animals. They are, as Rashi explains, they are used to being in your house. You don't want to have to train new animals about where to walk, where not to walk, etc. Inami litircha yasirta, or you're going to have to engage in extra effort in order to buy new animals. So all of that is what you're protecting. So yes, you actually end up effectively like you got nothing for the animals, but you still have those animals. And as we say, although the grass is often greener on the other side, usually if people have a chance, put all the pekkalas of all the troubles that people have into a package, you usually pick your own pekala back of troubles. And so you'll take the issues that you know rather than something you don't know. So Rav Chisda, so all of that was all according to Rabbah, and according to Rabbah, you didn't need to engage in any kind of special efforts if you were hired. That is not the position of everyone, and indeed, that is not the position that we're going to see of Rav Chisda and Rabbah Bar Rav Huna. So Rav Chisda, Rabbah Bar Rav Huna, lo sviru lahula de Rabbah. They disagree with Rabbah. To Amrei, they say, I'm paying you. This is the reason that I'm paying you. I'm paying you to give me some really good guarding. So as a result, that's why, in fact, even if you nap, at the time of napping, you go up at the time that people go and visit the city. That is not good practice. You need to engage in a good kind of watching if you are being paid for your watching skills. So let's take a look at a situation that highlights that. Okay, so Bar Ada Savola Havi Kamaavar Kamaavi Kavasa Agama Dinarash. So Bar Ada, with a carrier, was taking animals across the Narash River. So what ended up happening? Of course, the Chafa Chada L'Chaverta Ushadisa B'Maya. One animal pushed another into the river and it drowned. Asula Kamei de Rav Papa, they came in front of Rav Papa. And in this case, Rav Papa said he's liable. Well, Amar Lay, my Havali Me'abad. What was I supposed to do? I was, I did my best. I was watching them. How am I supposed to stop one animal from pushing another one into the river? So Amar Lay, you needed to take them across one at a time. You tried to shortcut things and do things faster. And as we all know, that when you try to rush something, you're going to make mistakes. So Amrle, Yadad Be Bivar Achtir, Dematilama Avar Chada Chada. Do you know anybody who does that? No person would do that with their own flock. So why should I, as a watcher, be obligated to do that? So Amrle, Kvar Tsaku Kamai B'Takama. People have before you have already made that point. Below Ika de Ashkach Bahu. And yet no one paid them attention. Of course, Rabbah paid them attention, but nobody else paid them attention. Meaning, this is the way we've concluded. Our conclusion is that you have to watch better than than people might ordinarily do for their own stuff. Ivud Afgib Bekisna Beirunya. So Ivu gave to Runya some Kisna some flax. So Azal Shabu Shmate Dmine. So Shabu, and Rashi tells us that Shabu was the name of a Ganab, an armed bandit who used to be in that area, and so he came and he took it away. L'sov Hukar Ganab, and it was discovered who it was, and yet Asul Kameder of Nachman Chayve. So they came in front of Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman said he's liable. So 1 second, Lema Pliga de Rav Huna Bar Avin. Does Rav Nachman actually argue with Rav Huna Bar Avin? Because the Shalach Rav Huna Bar Avin, because Rav Huna sent the following rule: Nignava ba'ones, if it was stolen and there was totally unavoidable, va'achar kalchuka hukara ganav, and then it became known who the thief was. Im shomer chinam, who, if the watcher was unpaid, Ratza nishpa, ratza osei modino. If the person wants, he can swear to the owner, or he can settle with the owner and sue the thief himself. Im shomer sakarhu, but if he's paid, osa imodin ve'eno nishpa. Well, then he has to settle with the owner. He can't swear and become not liable. Well, one second, we just said. Now, important to note that the situation that we were just talking about, where Ivu gave flax to Runya, Runya was an unpaid watcher, and so as a result, we just when they went to Rav Nachman said that even though he's an unpaid watcher, he has to pay up. Whereas Rav Huna bar Avin said if he's an unpaid watcher, he gets the choice. He could pay or he can swear. And so why didn't Rav Nachman give him the same choice? So Amar Rava says, you know what? It's a different case. Hasam Gavre de Parmuska Havu Kaime. There were Gavre, people of Parmuska. This Parmuska is understood to be police officers. Anshe Hashalton Hayusham, as Rashi says, the guard, watchers, police officers were there. And so as a result, Rama Kala, if he had just lifted his voice, Havu Asu Umatzlile, they would have come and saved them. And so as a result, although usually a Shomer Chinam does not need to go to court and get his money back from the thief, we're going to make this Shomer Chinam have to go and get his money back from the thief because he was effectively negligent in failing to raise his voice. Okay, so that brings us to the next Mishnah, and the next Mishnah discusses what constitutes an unavoidable mishap.
But
and
don't
so
we say this was onus? In this case, as Rashi points out, you didn't mention this, but this guy was Mizuyani. He was armed. This Shabu.
Correct. And in an ordinary case, you're absolutely right that would be onus. But when there are police officers within easy calling distance that would have come and saved the person, it is no longer an onus situation, even though the bandit was armed. Okay, so you're absolutely right. All right. If you take a look back at Shabu is the Rashi, Shem Haganab, that was the name
Mizuyan. He was armed.
Right, and least in Mizuyan Haya, and he was an armed bandit. So again, ordinarily, that was exactly the question. The question was, why did Rav Nachman not allow the watcher Runya to just swear and be not liable? He should have let. That's what we say. That's what Rav Huna did in a similar case. And Rava explained that because the police officers were there, and if he would have shouted, they would have come and saved all the produce or saved the flax. So therefore, even though a shomer chinam does not ordinarily have to be liable, this shomer chinam is going to be liable because he effectively was negligent in the nature of his watching. Okay, so now
this is a little bit different from secular law. There's not really an obligation to call the authorities in case you see something in most cases, but here there seems to be one.
It's not necessarily inconsistent with civil law in this country because you will be liable if you take an action of protection. So if you take an action that indicates, or if you're hired, for example, for protection, then you could be liable, right? This is what's special in this situation is that he agreed to watch the item. So since he agreed to watch the item, he's going to be subject to a higher level of liability. So you're absolutely right that we don't have, the Good Samaritan situations where you won't be liable if you try to help. But when you are actually hired to help, even if you're hired for free, you could, in fact, be liable. All right, so let's go to the owning situation and let's hear some interesting possible situations. So Zev Echad Eino Onus. One wolf is not unavoidable, meaning we expect a shepherd to be able to protect a flock from a single wolf. But Shnei Ze'evim Onus. But if you have two wolves, that is going to be unavoidable, because we can't expect you to be able to protect a flock from two wolves. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shas mishlachas ze'evim, when there are what Rabbi Yehuda says, that when the wolves are roaming about, then even one wolf, because you have to be worried about other wolves coming. So as a result, we're going to give you some benefit of the doubt in that situation. Shnei klavim eino onus. Two dogs are not considered an unavoidable mishap, because that is, again, the dogs are less vicious than wolves. And so as a result, you should be able to protect them. Yadua Habavli Omer, Mishum Rabbi Meir. Yadua Habavli said in the name of Rabbi Meir, Miruach Achas Eino Onus. Oh, you have to clarify this. It's only when the two dogs are coming together that there's nothing you can do about it. But Mishtei Ruchot, if they come from different directions, Onis, now all of a sudden, it is an Onis, because each of them are coming on their own. And as a result, there may be not much you could do about it. You can't protect from two sides. Halistim, what about bandits? Hareza Onis. Of course, that's going to be considered unavoidable. Ha'ari, a lion. Hadov, a bear. Hanamer, a leopard. Habardalas, it's a polecat. Hanachash, a snake. Hare elu Onis. These are all, again, unavoidable. These are wild animals that, that's you're not liable.
But we said earlier regarding the lion that he's supposed to call other people to help him.
Yes, well, yes, that is true. We're dealing with a situation where obviously that situation was where the lion roared, and so he had warning. This could be where the lion did not roar, and as a result, he had no warning and had no ability to get. Clearly, we're referring to a situation where he didn't have the ability to protect it. And that's part of the reason that I'm sure the Gemara immediately before this Mishnah was cited immediately before this Mishnah, because they want you to know going into this Mishnah, don't think that if there's something reasonable that you could do, that these onus situations are always an onus. If in fact there was something you could have done, you are going to still be liable. Aim aside, when are all of these?
Two things. One is, this is another example where Chazal considered dogs and wolves to be separate species. We see that in Klein as well, even though scientists today believe that they are in fact the same species. And second, Koren translate Bardalas as cheetah, and Rabbi Slipkin is their advisor on things like this.
All right, so maybe that makes more sense. But in any event, this is based on the polecat definition is based on the translation that Rashi offers in Old French for a Bardalas. But in any event,
I personally saw a cheetah fail to take down an antelope in South Africa.
All right. Okay. So that very interesting. That's okay. But so aim aside, when is it that all of these situations are going to be considered unavoidable? Bisman shabo me'alehen, where the animals come on their own. Aval holy chan. But if you take the shepherds, it takes the flock, limakom gedude chayel belistim, to a place where there are wild animals or there are bandits, ain't no onus. Then in all those situations, you can't then say it's an onus. Mesa Gedarka, what if it dies of the way or normal animals die, meaning of natural causes? Hareza onus. That's unavoidable. Sigfa umesa, if in fact you did some kind of thing to it, Rashi says sigfa, ina barab, you afflicted the animal with hunger. Oh, hamida bekitz bechama, or in the summer you put it out in the hot. Or b'chorek b'tzina, or you put it out in the cold in the winter. La'anos nefesh, to afflict it. So that would be considered, that is not going to be an unavoidable mishap, eno onus. Now, and Rashi then concludes, Metargam l'sigfa nefesh, that the definition of sigfa is nefesh, and so that's where this is going to be. So basically, if you somehow afflict its soul, that's going to be a problem. Also, l'rashi tzukin, if the animal on its own went to the top of the mountain, the nafla, and it fell, hareza onus, that's again unavoidable. hella la roche tzukin. But if you bring it to the top of the mountain, v'naflo mesa, then and fell and died, ain't no onus. Then it is not going to be unavoidable. Okay, so Vatanya zevechad ones. We have another brisa that seems to contradict our first line in our Mishnah. We said that one wolf is avoidable, but we have a brisa that says it's unavoidable. So Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, hahi b'shas mishlachos ze'evim b'Rebbe Yehuda. That's according to Rebbe Yehuda, and it's when the wolves are running around. Halistim hare ze ones. We said that an attack by a bandit is considered unavoidable. Amai, why? Loki gavra balahadi gavre. Why should one bad guy stop one good guy from being able to protect the sheep? So Amarab balista mizuyan. We're talking about where it's an armed bandit. Okay, so as a result, that he by lahu lista mizuyan veroya mizuyan mahu. Well, what happens if the shepherd is armed? How do we rule in that situation? So miamrian oki gavra lahadi gavra odilma high masar nafshe v'hilo masar nafshe. Do we say that that we've got one guy against another guy, and so as a result, the shepherd should protect the sheep? Or do we say, no, look, the bandit every day risks his life and knows that he's putting his life on the line and expects to do so. But the shepherd, he doesn't expect to put his life on the line every day. So, mistabra, the high masar nafshe, the high low masar nafshe. It makes more sense to say the second one, that the bandit knows that he's risking his life and the shepherd doesn't. And as a result, if the shepherd goes away and allows the animals to be taken in the face of an armed bandit, we all are going to say that that's okay. Okay, and Rashi says, "Hi Master Nafshe Halistim Almanas Kain Ba." The bandits come on that basis. Ola Harag, Ola Harog. They're either going to get killed or kill. Vayikach Mamon, or they're going to kill and take the money. Aval haroa ein lo limsor nafsho al kach. The shepherd doesn't plan to give up his life, to risk his life that way. So as a result, that's why we're going to say that it's okay, even that it's going to be unavoidable mishap, even if you give a gun to the shepherd.
Where's that Rashi?
What?
Where's that
First
Rashi?
Rashi, sorry, that was 8 lines up in Rashi in the narrow lines. First Rashi in the Gemara. Amrle Abaye l'Rava. Rab Abaye says to Rava, Ashkeche roeh v'amarle. What happens if a shepherd meets a bandit and he says to him, Gan v'sarya, you're a terrible guy. You're a rotten thief. A bad guy. V'duchta planya yisivina. We are sitting over here. We've got this many people with us. You are not, and we've got this many dogs to protect us. We've got this number of people as Zukasa, Kalayim, Hamiklayim, Be'eben. These are like slingshots. And what happens? The thief says, oh, thank you for all the information. You just spied out your location and everything. I'm going to now go and take everything from you. And so he does so. So what's the halacha? So Amrullah Rava says, Hare Holy Khan, that's just like you would have brought the entire flock, like you brought the flock to the wild animals and the beasts. So as Rashi says, Hare Holy Khan, Shehizkir lo amakom. You told him the place. Shabehemo sham, that all the animals were there. V'hisiu lavo al yadei shigidvo, and you caused him to come based on your taunting of him. So as a result, that's going to be considered something that is not unavoidable, and so as a result, that shepherd will be liable. Okay, so we've talked about, I'm sorry for not scrolling. Let me scroll a little bit. There we go. So we've talked about liability, but what happens now if I, as the watcher, either make a promise above and beyond the level of watching that my liability ordinarily, or I say I'm not going to be liable as much as I want to be liable? Can we negotiate away from the standard levels of liability? Well, for the answer to that question, you'll need to stay tuned to tomorrow's daf. Now, tomorrow's daf is actually already on the HIR website, I believe. And so feel free to go and check it out now if you want. God willing, both Shabbases, both tomorrows and Sundays will be recorded. They will not be presented live. So, and they both have been recorded. I just don't know when Sundays is going to get posted. Hopefully sometime today, so that it will get sent out with the Sunday email. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a very, very good Shabbos, and looking forward to continuing our learning together.
Yasher Koach, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And just as a foreshadowing, on Shavuos, we'll learn an hour before Mincha on each day live. So I'm sorry that we won't have those recorded and in the system, but we'll be meeting in the lobby of the shul. And then if people want, we can move upstairs, but it's often easiest just to stay there. It's a nice setting. So
has the Soma Institute come up with a grammar recording device so we can record it on Yom Tov?
Not that I'm aware of. That would be a very difficult thing to come up with. But if you hear of anything, please let me know, and we
I
can
was
try
joking.
and take care of it. All right. Anyway, have a great job.